I'm Kelly Schmiel, and I'm the Relationship Director at GCFA and oversee our Ministry Partner Program. I don't know how familiar you are with our program, but our program's goal is to provide vetted and credible services and vendors within our connection, all to save money and time while putting that money back into your all's ministries. I'm excited to have Vanco join us today to talk more about driving engagement and generosity through the Lenten season, which is just around the corner. Many of you are familiar with Vanco's platform, and I'm happy to introduce the Vanco team. I'm going to turn it over to them, and they're going to talk a little bit more about engagement through their e-giving. Jenny, you're muted.
Thank you. We got over so many technical hurdles, and then I can't.
Right. Well, when we switched over, all of us who are on mute. So just you all note that when it's your turn to talk.
Great. Thank you. Okay. So I'm Jenny Luter, and I'm the Director of Faith Partnerships, and I work closely with Kelly and with Tammy Ruffle, and I'm just thrilled with the partnership that we have with your organization. And I'm going to hand it over to my coworkers to introduce themselves as well.
Excellent. Thanks so much there, Jenny. My name is Abby. I am on our marketing team here at Vanco, and we are so excited to be talking with you all today about driving engagement and giving during the Lenten season. So I'm going to toss things over to my colleague, Katie, and let her introduce herself as well.
Hi, everyone, and thanks so much for joining us today. My name is Katie. I work closely with Abby in the marketing department, and we look forward to sharing with you an insightful presentation today.
And hello, my name is Keith Mundy, and I work with accounts, and I work with Jenny, and I look forward to having a conversation with you today. Thank you.
And what Keith didn't share is that he has led stewardship for the entire ELCA denomination for the last 20 years. So we've got quite a resource here in terms of stewardship education.
Excellent. Well, now that you've had a chance to get to know our Vanco team, I want to walk through our quick agenda for today. So we are going to start, we've done our welcome, you've met us, and we're going to focus our presentation today around two key areas. First, we're going to talk about building engagement and relationships within your church community. And then we're going to transition into thinking about the stewardship side. So we're going to give you, Katie and I, a few tips for the Lenten stewardship season and some ways that you can set your community up for success. After that, we're going to talk about some next steps. And I know we have both some clients on our call today, as well as some Vanco prospects. So we'll be walking through next steps for both of you. And then we're going to end today with a question and answer session. So again, if you have questions as we're working our way through, don't hesitate to reach out and let us know. We'd love to make sure we cover any questions that are top of mind. So with that, I am going to turn things over to Keith, who, as Jenny mentioned, has many years of stewardship expertise, and he is going to talk us through our first part on building engagement and relationships within your church community.
Thank you, Abby. Appreciate that. And I want to say, as we get started here, giving is about relationship. Whether we're talking about regular giving, special giving, or planned giving, it's about relationship. It's about relationship with God, it's about relationship with each other, and it's about relationship with the communities that we serve. And so what I like to talk about is how do we steward those relationships, and how do we steward that engagement? And the first question I'd like to ask, it comes up and it says, if a member does not attend worship in your congregation on a given Sunday, how many days or weeks before someone contacts them? Now, I've asked that question in a lot of different contexts, and I've had some congregations say that their practice is if we don't see someone in 2 weeks, we're making a personal phone call or a personal email to them to find out how they are and what's going on. Unfortunately, that's not the majority of congregations. A large percentage of congregations says, I don't know if we ever contact people who don't come to worship. And when we talk about that as being stewardship of a relationship, how do we stay and maintain connection with the people who are part of our faith community or who are friends in our faith community. This is about how we steward that relationship. The second part that we want to talk about is how do we engage people? And by engagement, that means how do we keep track of the ways that people are involved in ministry? How many different ways are the people in a particular household involved in ministry? And this is a way for us to understand what their interests are, maybe what their skills or their passions are, what the Holy Spirit is moving them to become involved in. And so this is an important way to understand, to move from the concept of simple participation to engagement. And we look at some specific areas when we talk about that. We talk about engagement, and we're looking at things like worship. Do people come in-person worship, virtual worship, drive-up worship? There's a lot more variety of that in the last year than we've kind of had historically in many congregations, but it's about worship attendance. It's about education. Do people participate in Bible study or youth ministry or Sunday school or vacation Bible school, whatever forms of education might occur in your congregation? And then are they involved in some kind of service, whether that's volunteering in the congregation or the community, maybe serving as an usher, serving on a committee, helping out with Habitat for Humanity? What kind of service are they involved in? Is someone in the household involved with service? Next is giving. Is there a contribution of record? Do we know if this household has made a contribution within the last 6 months or the last year? And then there's, for congregations that have a variety of other activities, there's an other category. So some congregations, for example, have very active small group ministries. And so one of the ways is to say, is someone in their household active in a small group ministry? So you see, there could be up to 5 different areas. And if we go to the next screen, we'll be able to see how those 5 areas might be laid out. Well, you might take a look at the list in the left-hand column of who are all the families in your congregation. Start up there up front with the Adams family. You know them. They're the ones who live across town, and they have this big, dark house, and they tend to dress in black all the time. And sometimes it seems like they do some strange things, and there's always a commotion when they bring Uncle Festus to church on Sunday. That's the Adams family. And then you have at the very end the Zinkers. That's Zynkers, okay? But you go through, you bring a group of leaders together to take a look at everyone from A to Z, and you ask a simple question. Have we seen someone in their family involved in worship or in education or in service? Do we have a contribution of record? Are they involved in some other specific or special ministry of the congregation? And the simple answer there is a yes or a no, a check or a 1, however you want to keep track of it. But the idea is to take some time and to go through that for each household and see over in the far right-hand column, what's that total look like? So if there were 5 options, okay, are there 5 different options? Are there 4 different options? And then to go through and count up how many 4s, 3s, 2s, 1s, and 0s do you have in your congregation? Recognizing those people who are 3s and 4s, or if you have 5s, those people are probably the core of your congregation. And the people who are the 0s and 1s are probably more on the fringe of the life of your congregation. Now, it does mean you need to think about the people who might have been sick for a period of time or might be overseas working for some period of time. So know what some of those exceptions are. But the concept here is to take a look at who is at the core and who are the people who are closer to the fringe. And then to begin thinking about how do people move from the fringe toward the core. The next slide here begins to show us just a quick calculation of what percent, when you go through this exercise with households, what percent of your households are 4s, 3s, 2s, 1s, and 0s? What percent are close to the core and really engaged and involved in the life of the congregation, and who are the people who are less so, more on the fringe? This is a way to begin to see how strong your core is, but as importantly, to begin to think about how do people move from the fringe toward the core? Because those people who are at the core of your congregation today, most likely were not in that position 5 years ago or 10 years ago. Say, grew toward the core. So what are the things that cause people to grow towards the core of your congregation? Right? What is it? And part of that is understanding what the why is. Why do people come to your congregation? I think of some specific examples from congregations that I work with. In my particular congregation that I belong to, it's a congregation that's very active in music. And there are 11 different choirs or musical groups in this congregation. It has a very broad reach, starting with children who are 7 years old and going up, people in the choir that are 70 years old. So it's a very broad range, a very broad age group. But music is one of the ways that people become involved. And in fact, the music program in this congregation is not only a local, it's a regional. We're drawing people from 25-mile radius who want to be part of this particular music program. It's a why for people. Understanding what your why is. Another example I can think of is a congregation that I worked with in Chicago, and theirs is education. Education. They're trying to offer a dozen different courses every semester for adults and young adults to come and learn. So their focus is education, and they take a look at people at the core are those who are involved in education. So identifying what your why is, what are the things that will attract people to the core? What are the things that cause them to move there? And one of the ways to discover that is to simply have a conversation with those who are already there and say, what has brought you toward the core of this congregation? Maybe it was a particular ministry, but maybe it was a particular relationship with another family or a leader in the congregation. And so learn what those areas are, or those ways that people move towards the core, and then begin to talk about how can you accompany people as they move toward that core? How can you make it easier? One of the ways is to learn what those paths towards the core are, and then as you look at people on the fringe and say, which of these paths do people seem to identify with? So that I might have someone who's on that, been down that path, contacting them and volunteer to accompany them or to help them. Well, I notice you have someone who's just turned 7. Have you thought about them participating in one of our music ministries? Think about some ways to begin to connect with people to help them move from further away from the core toward the core. This is about stewarding relationships. It's about engaging people. It's about strengthening that relationship. And it's one of the ways that people grow in their giving, when they feel strongly connected to the work that's done in and through their congregation. Thank you.
Excellent. Thanks so much, Keith, for all those great points from there. We're going to be chatting a little bit here about some ways that you can take what you've learned from Keith and apply that with some of our free tools here in just a minute. But before we get into that, I want to take a little bit of time, and Katie and I are going to talk about some tips for Lenten stewardship success. So we know Ash Wednesday is just 2 weeks away at the moment, and Lent and the Lenten season is quickly approaching, as well as Easter and the Easter season after that. So we want to talk you through, although it feels like we are right around the corner from it, there's still quite a few things that you can do today to set your church up for success. So Katie and I are going to walk through 3 different steps that you can utilize today to help set your church up for Lenten stewardship success. And the first step is planning ahead. So if this is something you haven't done yet, I really encourage you to take some time over the next few days and walk through this exercise. Take a calendar, set it down, and look at all of the months that lead up to Easter. Write down on that calendar any key dates that are coming up, any special collections, any events that you're doing as a church, and lay all those out. Once you've got all your special collections, your masses, your worships, your small groups, your events on that calendar, you can start to build your Easter communication plan around this calendar. You can also use this as an opportunity to set goals for your church so you can stay on track. Are there goals you have for certain special collections, or are there specific missions that you're supporting during the Lenten season? Pull all those goals and make sure that those are noted within this planning process as well. This is all going to come together as you move into our next step about communication, because we want to make sure as you're thinking about all the great work you're doing and the goals you have, that you're sharing that multiple times. So you're using as many methods as possible to reach out to your members and your visitors to make sure that you can be successful this season. So I'm going to turn things over to Katie, and she's going to touch on our step 2.
Excellent. Thanks, Abby. I love talking about step 2, spread the word, as I think there's a lot that we can carry into the Lenten and Easter season. The first one being explain how you will use Easter donations from your members and visitors. And this step can be done in a variety of ways. This can be directly from your pulpit, whether you have in-person services or virtual services. You can share how donations will be used in your newsletter. Perhaps you send out a postcard. My church here in Minneapolis, they always put together a nice postcard ahead of the Christmas season and the Lenten and Easter season. And this gives the congregation a really nice eye and insight into the church's Lenten and Easter plans. Whether this is church service times for the main services in the Lenten and Easter season, this could be how you plan to use their Easter donations, but a postcard is a great way to get the word out. But like I said, you can always use your newsletter, your website, or your social media platform as well. Also use this time to share a story of success. I think this combines back to point number 1. Share your story of success in your services and directly from the pulpit, and continually share those. As you know, not everyone can tune in or attend services weekly, so they might be missed. So don't hesitate to make those messages recurring. Lastly, end with a call to action. And this call to action can be anything related to time, talent, or treasure, but inviting them to make a gift, and inviting them to volunteer at one of your upcoming causes. It doesn't stop there, so make sure that you're making a strong call to action. And this brings us to our Easter Giving Kit. We're excited to offer you today our free online promotion kit, and I'll figure out a way here. I think I see a chat option that I'll link out this website here for you, where you can just go in and access our promotional materials. I know this is a really busy time for churches, so we want to make it as easy as possible for you. So hop in here and take a look at all the variety of resources we have available for you. This can be I Give electronically cards. We have bulletin messages, and these bulletin messages can be easily adapted to your liking. You can also put them on your website or in your e-newsletter. They're highly customizable, so we encourage you to take a look.
Excellent. Thanks so much there, Katie, for all that great detail. And as we transition into step 3, I want to give a quick reminder on this promotional kit that Katie's going to share out. Like we mentioned earlier, some of you are Vanco clients on the call today, and we highly encourage you to take advantage of this. But if you're not yet a Vanco client, these messages can be adapted to utilize whatever method you have for collecting donations today. So whether that's encouraging people to mail in a cash or check, or if this prompts you to look into online giving, it's a great tool to really utilize and expand upon what Katie and I are going to share today. So that takes us into step number 3, which is make giving easy. So we know that historically Easter is one of the most highly attended days of the year for churches. Now, it was around this time last year that we were starting to head into our first stay-at-home orders, and really the way that we were living life as we had known it was starting to change, and people were investing in virtual ministry and figuring out new ways to gather together. So while Easter may again look different this year, we still believe it's going to be a highly attended day in the church calendar. And because of that, we really encourage you to be thinking about ways that you can allow your members or your visitors to express their generosity if they're moved to. And I have on here just a couple quick stats. So we have seen over the course of our research that the use of paper check has dropped 50% in the last 15 years. And many of that comes into play with what payment methods people have available and are carrying on them today. So most often we see people have that debit card or that credit card easily accessible. The other stat I want to share here is that setting up online giving often leads to an average increase of 26% in total giving. Now, this is going to help you with stabilizing those gifts throughout the year, giving people the opportunity to set up recurring transactions, but also too, like we talked about just a minute ago, by aligning those payment methods with the payment methods that your members and visitors have on hand, you allow members the opportunity to give in the moment and express their generosity without being held back by the amount of cash or number of paper checks that they have on them at that time. And then lastly, while making giving easy, and Katie mentioned this earlier, which I think is great in terms of sharing success stories, make sure you're expressing gratitude before, during, and after the offering time. So again, make sure you're using that as an opportunity to share out the great work that your church is doing with the donations you've had thus far, and thanking those generous members and visitors. That's really going to help encourage them to continue to support the great missions that you do. Excellent. Well, before we get into talking about some tools that we have to offer, I do want to toss things back to Katie, and she's going to walk us through here quickly just a few different items that we have, some ways to help you as you're moving into the Easter season.
Excellent. Thanks, Abby. We'll dive into this a little further in the presentation, but we wanted to start with giving you an idea of all the different opportunities you can use when it comes to giving, payments, and registrations for the Lenten and Easter season. So let's take a look at this pinwheel here. There's a variety of these to get your mind going, but the first one being Easter Lilies. I've worked with several churches over the years that have offered members and visitors a way for them to make a donation in honor of someone, a family member or a friend, with Easter lilies. So this is a way for you to collect online contributions for Easter lilies rather than having to track down those donations or payments. A fun one here is Easter egg hunts. A lot of churches have a registration opportunity for Easter egg hunts. Also, a variety of different special collections. The Lenten season is very busy for churches, and they have a variety of different collections and needs throughout that season, and will help you collect donations for those special collections. And we all know by now how virtual services have become the norm these days. So I've seen a lot of churches make it easy for their members to still be able to give, even in this time of virtual services. My church here in Minneapolis, right below that screen, they have a button for members to give online, and we'll show you an example here shortly. And then it leads us to spring events. So whether this is spring events during the Lenten and Easter season, or after the Easter season wraps up, you can consider using these registration and payment options for spring events. And last but not least, drive-through fish fries. There are so many churches that do fish fries, and last year they had to quickly shift gears and make it a drive-through fish fry. So this is just another way you can use online payments to capture those fish fry registrations.
Excellent. Thanks so much for walking through those, Katie. So I do want to take a minute to transition us now. So as Jenny mentioned on the call earlier, many of you are current Vanco clients, and some of you are evaluating how you can utilize tools to help you with engaging your members, driving that engagement, as well as stewardship success. So Katie and I are going to walk through here a few tools that we have available at Vanco for both our clients as well as our prospective clients to help them with telling their story and inspiring generosity with Vanco faith. So again, as we move through these tools, we're going to tie these back to things that Keith has mentioned or that we've mentioned, really to show you how simple it is to enact a few of those tips that we mentioned earlier. So we're going to get started. Oh, a little too fast. We're going to get started today with Vanco Mobile. And Vanco Mobile is a free church app that we offer here at Vanco. Again, a great space that you can utilize to bring your community together and drive that engagement. So during our short demo of Vanco Mobile, we're going to walk through 3 key areas. We're going to talk about groups and chats to really build those relationships. We're going to talk about events for driving participation, and then we'll touch lightly on giving as well. So let's get started with talking about events. So like I mentioned, we know we are on the cusp of the Lent and Easter seasons. So as we get into those, be thinking about how your church is going to manage Lent and Easter activities. So we know, as we mentioned, we're in a world where there are some in-person events, there are some virtual events, and some are a combination hybrid. So if you are looking to host in-person events, but are maybe looking to cap or set attendance limits, that's something that can be easily done within Vanco Mobile. We'll look at our example on the screen here of Ash Wednesday. You can see this is a service we're going to be hosting in person, where we have that attendance limit set at 50. I'm going to show you here in just a little bit how when I, as a member or maybe a visitor to your church, RSVP, it's going to in real time update those numbers. So those that are looking at service know how many seats are available. As I talked about earlier, and Katie will get into this in a little bit, we're going to show you how simple it is to allow members and visitors to RSVP, whether that's online or through the mobile app. And then you can create unlimited virtual or in-person events. So as we mentioned, the app itself is free. You're able to create unlimited events for free. And these can be easily shared, whether that's on your website, in emails, or in social platforms as well. So let's take a quick minute and dive into Vanco Mobile to, like I said, really bring this to life of how simple it is to utilize a tool like Vanco Mobile to help with driving engagement. So you all should be able to see my screen, which has Mr. Bear hanging out in his life jacket on it. And we're going to be spending just a little time in Vanco Mobile, which is going to be the app in the upper left-hand corner. So as I tap into that, I'm going to start us actually today in our events tab. So as we mentioned, events are a great way for you to be able to facilitate that engagement, whether it's through things like worship services. You can see we have Palm Sunday on there, something more casual like a fish fry, or maybe something like a small group, whether that's mission trips or mission trip planning or your Bible study. So we're gonna start with, actually, we can see I have already RSVP'd for our fish fry, but I'm also going to take an opportunity to think forward to the end of March and RSVP for Palm Sunday. Now, as I click yes, and I'm going to RSVP for my family, I can see that my 73 remaining seats has dropped to 71. So again, in that real time, I get the opportunity to see how many open spots are available for me to take advantage of as a member. If something happens to come up and we decide, you know what, we're actually going to do Sunday service or Palm Sunday service virtually, or we're not going to do it at Vanco Valley this year, I can easily change my answer to no. And those seats are going to be released back to the church to be able to use from there. So again, if I click yes, I'm going to see those seats. Otherwise, if I click no, it's going to release those back for my members to use. All right, so let's move on to our groups and chats. So one of the things to think about within Vanco Mobile is 3 different levels that you can utilize this for in terms of creating engagement as well as building those relationships. So we have that really high level. That could be things like your Bible study. It could be things like members who are interested in supporting your food shelf. You can bring a large group of people together around a central topic and use Vanco Mobile as a way to start that conversation or share updates or past stories of success. We can also take that down a level. Maybe it's something like our leadership team. We can see in here we've got our finance committee. This is an easy way for us to share notes ahead of our meeting. maybe confirm where we're meeting, when we're meeting, or direct people to take a look at reports within our online giving platform ahead of our call. And then lastly, and this goes back to what Keith had mentioned earlier, I can also check in on a personal level. So we're going to take Teresa just as an example. She's a church member who hasn't been around for the past couple weeks. So I can easily use Vanco Mobile to send her a message directly, just checking in to see how things are going. I'm using this as an opportunity to say, do you have time for a virtual visit or coffee or a phone call this week? I noticed you haven't been at service the past couple of Sundays, and I just want to make sure everything's okay. Teresa can respond back right within the app. Again, it gives us an opportunity to build our relationships as well as check in just to make sure that everything is going okay with her. So I am going to just take us back to our main screen here. So as I talked about, we've got that great opportunity for groups and chats. We've got some great opportunities in here for events. I'm not going to touch on giving within the app since we're going to be transitioning to that here in just a minute. But no, it's simple for you to be able to give a gift right from within Vanco Mobile and allow your members the opportunity to express their generosity. So I am going to take just a minute here and transition over. So like I mentioned, I've got Katie on the call with us today. She's going to be helping to walk us through how we can use some of those tips for stewardship to really bring your giving page to life during the Lenten season. So Katie, I am going to make you the presenter and we'll let you take it away.
Very good. Can you see my screen?
I believe so. Yes.
Excellent. Very good. So let me start by showing you a demo teaching site Vanco is built to share best practices, and this is Vanco Valley Community Church. And you're welcome to jot down this website and head over here at any time, as it really shares, like I said, best practices and input on creating a strong website. So whether you're creating a website for the first time or you're looking to improve these, this website will offer you some great tips. So here at Vanco, we simply use a website builder using a really easy to use template, so something your church can do as well. And you'll see some recommended sections here up at the top. And I'm going to have us zone in on these middle ones here. So how members can express generosity, stay in touch with communications, and view both virtual and in-person events. So let's take a look here at events. Like every page here on Vanco Valley, we include some information on why we suggest having an events page, for example, along with some best practices. So if we scroll down to look at our events, we have food shelf volunteer shift, there's Bible study, and then there's online Sunday service. So I'm going to click into food shelf volunteer shift. And it's going to bring up the event details for this volunteer opportunity. And what I really love about this page is that it allows you to share imagery and share your story about the church's involvement with the local food shelf. And I think this really connects back to step number 2 we discussed earlier about spreading the word and communicating to your members how their donations are being used. And this is a great area for you to accomplish exactly that. So see here on the left-hand side, there's a quick description, allows you to share some imagery, really allows you to connect with the opportunity listed here. And connecting back to what Abby just shared, this allows you to manage attendance. So with the food shelf, there are 15 remaining seats. I could simply type in my name here, the total number of attendees, and then phone number. Then I'm signed up for the event. It's really just that easy. So you can manage, or members can RSVP to events, whether it's from the church's website or using the smartphone app that Abby just demonstrated for you. So I'm going to head back to the main page here. And I want to take a look at the Give Now button. So as we move into the Lenten and Easter season, I encourage you to consider a Give Now button if you don't already have one. This offers both members and visitors a really easy way for them to make both one-time and recurring contributions. So let me get over here. I am trying to hop over, but the webinar screen is, let's see if that works. All right, there we go. So you'll see here with Vanco Online that we recently released a new online giving page. So if you're already a Vanco client, this may look a little different to you, but it's the same set technology and security as our old pages, just funds are now displayed as tiles. And that I love this new view as it really allows you to share your story and share an image with each giving category, or what we refer to as tiles. And it can range anything from donations to payments to registrations. So we have Sunday offering, we have Easter lilies, food shelf donations, virtual Easter egg hunt, community projects, weddings, and facility rentals. So let's look at Sunday offering, this first one. I can go up here to make a gift. So let's make this a $75 gift. I can choose the frequency. Let's make it monthly. And I will have it start this Friday. And I'll add to the basket. Before I proceed with checking out with my donation, it offers members the opportunity to explore more ways to give. So whether they want to add in a donation for Easter lilies or make a food shelf donation as well. So you can always click into those. And we're going to continue. If I was already logged in, it would have my credit or debit card information here saved, or I could enter in my bank account information. You'll then see here in the right-hand corner, my gift of $75. And this is one of my favorite features of Vanco Online, is this opportunity to contribute 3% to help cover the processing fees. So when you add that 3%, it takes it from $75 to $77.25. And I think this offers benefits to both the church and the members. Churches can offer them their members the opportunity to use their credit card, which is a convenience to members, and it allows churches to save on those small processing fees here. So if I was making a real life contribution, I would simply move to continue to review. So it's really just that easy for your members to head to your website, click the Give Now button, view different events, and make a quick contribution, whether this is a one-time or recurring contribution during the Lenten and Easter season. So before I wrap up here, one common question that I get is, this looks really easy for our members, but what does it look like for the church staff? Is this easy for our church staff or its volunteers to manage? So let me hop over here to the back end. You'll see here that this is where I have I'm able to access all the different funds or giving tiles on the Vanco Online page. So just what we were looking at a few moments ago. And it allows you to create tiles at any time, and then you can simply hide those ones that are not applicable for that time of the year. For example, after the Easter season, you'll likely not want to have Easter lilies on your page. So you can simply hide it rather than deleting this. And this saves your church staff a lot of time. I know a lot of churches were busy after the new year archiving their Christmas tiles and creating new tiles for the upcoming year. Real quickly here, to create a new tile, you simply choose whether it's a gift-related tile or a payment-related tile. Let's make it a payment-related tile. For example, I could type in fish fry, and then there's 6 simple steps on creating that tile. You provide that little paragraph of text. You share an image, whether that's an image from last year's fish fry, or you can choose from our library of images. You can choose which bank account you want to connect it to, and then simply review it. If I head back here, Abby demonstrated for you Vanco Mobile, so I can, this is where you'd also access Vanco Mobile as well. I won't dig into it, but you can simply click Get Started to really have the opportunity to customize your Vanco Mobile app. So with that, feel free to chat in any questions you have about Vanco Online. We hope you followed along, and if you have further information or want us to dig deeper into it, you're welcome to contact us, and we'd be happy to walk you through it further.
Excellent. Thanks so much, Katie. And as you stop share, we'll move into our next steps from there. So like Katie mentioned, this has been a great presentation, moving us through both our online giving as well as our opportunity for walking through our mobile app. And I'm just going to see here if Kelly or Katie might be able to make me the presenter. We'll dive into just a little bit more here. Next steps from there.
Jensen, I think Jensen has to do that. I wish I could.
No problem.
So I'll let him, if he's able to do that.
Perfect. Awesome. Thanks so much there, Jensen. So like we mentioned, we have gone through a lot already so far today in terms of telling your story and inspiring generosity with Vanco Faith. So we hope you've learned some great things today about not only being able to build engagement and relationships, but also to promote your stewardship from there. So many of you may be asking, that looked very interesting. What are my next steps from there? So if you are interested in partnering with Vanco, whether that's on the engagement side or the stewardship side, here's what we recommend for our 3 steps. And this is very similar for both our current Vanco clients as well as those who are evaluating e-giving for the first time. Regardless of where you are in that journey, we always encourage you to start by requesting your personal demo, or if you already are partnered with us, we'd love to do an e-giving page consultation. What that allows us to do is really get to know you and your church and its missions. And from there, we can make sure you're set up on the right tools, as well as if you're already partnered with us, make sure we're setting up your new versions of your Vanco Faith Suite to really align with who you are today. Once we help you with selecting those tools and getting those set up for your church, it's really as simple as starting to increase donations and engagement. And we help you do that through things like what Katie shared earlier with our Easter giving kit and our promotional materials that we create and provide for our churches throughout the year. So that doesn't have to be a burden that falls on you in terms of communication and sharing that great message out. So with that, I am going to transition us over into our questions section. So if there are any questions that have come in, we'd be happy to take a few minutes and touch on those from there.
And I don't know if you all can all see the chat. I can see it, and I haven't seen any questions come through yet, but I will. Can you all see the chat from your end?
I believe so.
Okay. I was going to say, if I can help read a question as one comes through. Yeah. So far, no questions. But I will go ahead while we're on this and just let those who are registered and who are on this, let them know that Vanco is going to be following up with all these materials. And then we recorded today's webinar and are going to put it up on the GCFA website under the Vanco partner page, which I included in the chat. So if there's anyone else from your all's congregations that you want to share this presentation with, that'll be up there. But as the Vanco team has reiterated a couple of times, they're here to help and talk through how they can help you all in any way that they can. So thank you all. This was a great webinar. So a lot of great materials you all went through today. So thanks for your time on this.
Certainly. We're glad to partner with you.
Awesome. All right.
Excellent.
Well, I still don't see any questions. So I'd say that's the sign of a great presentation. All right. Well, if we don't have any questions, we are giving you the gift of about 10 minutes. So, so thank you all for helping out with this, and thank you all for participating today.
Absolutely.
Thanks, Kelly.
Thank you all.
Thanks,
God
everyone.
bless.